What? Made me come over there. Yeah, you heard me. What you say about my mama? Yes, I'm on. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Learn more? No. Okay, what's up, people? So we in here, we in the house. Somebody here, what's up? So look, it's Friday night. So disappointed. So disappointed. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? What? Find it. You can do anything. Damn fool, what's up? I see you. Man, look, my bad, dog. Cause I know, you know what I'm saying, fucking around on Juneteenth I seen Hoon and didn't get his number. But I know somebody else I got, you know what I'm saying, his number, so I'll see what I can do. I'll tell him to holler at you. Man, it's been a minute, man. Like I was saying, man, so disappointed. I mean, look, had the car packed, ready to go, you know what I'm saying, just on the road, and then, oh, the headlight is out. And this ain't the first headlight, this is the second headlight. So now can't go with no headlights, so I go to the little, you know what I'm saying, I got you. So I go to the auto zone, you know what I'm saying, to go get me some headlights, man. I could pop some headlights on. This ain't nothing, right? Man, you know what I'm saying? I go down there, man, these motherfuckers tell me I got some special headlights. Each headlight cost $149. What? That's some bullshit. And then I looked up how to put them in, and it's not, you know what I'm saying, it's not pop and clip, you know what I'm saying, pull it out, plug the other one in, you know what I'm saying, put the clip on, put it in, turn it, and twist, and you done. Nah, it ain't none of that. It's some old crazy shit. So I don't know. I don't understand. But yo, life is good. Your boy been, you know what I'm saying, man. I've been at work all week, you know what I'm saying, and no complaints, no complaints. But, you know what I'm saying, you got to go get that bread because I ain't with being broke. And if I ain't going to work and getting paid, you know what I'm saying, look, I'm barely making it. I live in Southern California. But, you know what I mean, everything costs extra. You know what I mean? It's like we pay extra for the weather. We got to pay for the weather. And that's crazy because San Diego got the best weather. You know what I mean? I'm born and raised out here. And I grew up in this. So, it's funny because my sister left and now she lives in, you know what I'm saying, in a place where it snows. And she's like, oh yeah, you know what I'm saying, sending pictures of Christmas of snow, and it's snow all over the place. And yeah, you know what I'm saying, I go outside this Christmas and I put the top down in the convertible, and you know what I'm saying, it's 70 degrees at Christmas. This is San Diego, baby. You can't beat it. Reshoot for sure. I got you, Key. I got you. Full shizzity. Nah, but you know what I'm saying, I was so disappointed, man. I got off work, loaded up the car, ready to go, you know what I'm saying, I'm fixing to go out. Cause if people don't know, you know what I'm saying, we got a thing in San Diego called the Rady Shell. The Rady Shell is a place, it's an amphitheater. Right on the water, right behind the Embarcadero, right next to the Embarcadero Pier. And I go down there and I fish. And the first time, you know what I'm saying, I was down there, me and the wife was down there fishing like half the day. And then all of a sudden it started getting crowded and a lot of people started coming. Next thing you know what I'm saying, they started playing music. This is like, it's a free concert for some people because boats pull up and you know what I'm saying, an anchor right there off the rock so that they can, enjoy the concert. And I done been down there and got a couple free concerts because once we found out that this is, I can go fishing at the same time, I get to listen to some music. You can't beat it, right? Look, me and my wife was down there, and they was playing. I think it was who was it? I think it was Smokey Robinson was here. So Smokey out here, and then the wife caught a damn, what was it? An octopus, a little octopus, and she was holding it up in the line, and it was, dancing to the beat because the music was playing. Gee, SnowRoc, good to see you again. Hey, Duke, thanks for tapping in, man. Appreciate you. You know what I mean? Every little, every little view, every little thumb, helps. Hit them thumbs. People hit them thumbs for me one time. Man, like I was saying, I was ready to go down there, go fishing and everything, and then car trouble, and now, I'm sitting here stuck at the house. I apologize, folks, but it is what it is. This is the way life goes, But we keep going. It don't stop, Because it's gonna keep getting better, I can't let, one little raindrop spoil my day. Say hi. Hi. My partner. Nah, I'm a shooting your hookup. Yeah, man, so disappointed. Poles in the water, bait still in the car. Matter of fact, cooler full, chairs, everything was supposed to be sitting out there. Listening to a concert. Live with y'all, and fishing, hopefully catching. Cause fishing ain't always catching. You go fishing, sometimes you just, fishing. Fishing don't mean you catching. You want to go someplace catching, there's certain places you can go. You can go down to the, what is it, the pet store. Oh, you can catch some fish at the pet store. They'll put them in a bag for you. You can take them home. But yeah, fishing ain't catching. Sometimes, sometimes it is, sometimes it ain't. I'd have had good days fishing, I'd have had bad days fishing. But no complaints, because every day fishing is a day above ground. Another day in the sunshine, fresh air, living. And your boy gonna keep pushing. And it keeps getting better. Look, I'm telling you. This is the longest I've been, out of a cage since I was 9 years old. I'm living my best life. I'm about to be a grandpappy. Yep. Right around the corner now. Right around the corner. Life is good though. So I can't let them not getting to go fishing today. Slow me down, stop me, or derail to get down. Man, thanks. Appreciate it. Congratulations. But hey, I'm blessed. My family's growing. Everything, everybody's healthy, everybody's good. I don't ask for more than that. I'm thankful for everything I get because, I don't know, people told me I wouldn't make it to 21. And it's 53 now, fool all y'all. But nah, I'm still here. I'm lucky. I say I'm blessed by the best. I'm praying for the rest, man, because, he kept me here. And I'm still here. But last weekend, man, I went to the Juneteenth function, man, at Memorial Park. Man, look, the Daz Band was playing live, in the park. Hey, it was off the hook. Man, I seen so many of my folks. It was ridiculous out there. It was so much comedy. Everybody, it was all love. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't no BS. It wasn't, you know what I'm saying? It was the way it should be all the time. It should be like that more often. But that's the thing. We got to make it like that. We the only ones who can do that. I was dead twice and didn't know. Yeah, well, you still here. He kept you here for a reason. That's the way I feel. He kept me here for a reason. You know what I mean? You know, man, I done been stabbed 13 times. I done been shot twice. I done been beat. I got beat with an axe handle. They cracked my skull, and I I done been through it a few times. I done drove a quad off the side of a mountain, broke my back in 2 places, and got up, climbed up the mountain, and then got life flighted to the hospital. And then after they took care of me in the hospital, you know what I'm saying, you know, that same day, they rolled me in a wheelchair out to the curb, and I got up out the wheelchair and got into my auntie's van. Now, don't get me wrong, you know what I'm saying, they had me on some Percocets. So, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't feeling much of nothing. But I'm talking about back broke in 2 places, arm broke, nose broke, toe broke, fucked up. And still, you know what I'm saying, getting up and walking, you know what I'm saying, to where I need to go and doing what I need to do. I was on meds, but you know what I mean, you know, I had to do what I had to do, you know, and it was a bad experience. It was rough, you know. That was the worst feeling I ever had. But that's when I drove the quad off the side of a mountain and they life flighted me to the hospital. That's when I realized that I was indestructible. I just decided I'm gonna stop testing it. No more tests are needed. Tests hurt. So no more testing. We know we're indestructible. I'm good. I'm just gonna stick with that. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know, life keeps getting better, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, the man upstairs kept me here for a reason. I don't know what that is, but every morning I ask him to give me the strength to show me what he wants me to do and give me the strength to get it done. And every day, you know what I'm saying, you know, I'm blessed to wake up the next day. I'm hoping tomorrow he wakes me up again because I want to do this again. It's a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, that ain't taking care of their health, and you got to take care of your health. Everybody, you know what I'm saying, you know, everybody ain't indestructible like me. So please, people, get yourself checked out. Go to the doctor regularly. Get that checkup. Get checked out. You know, it's better to know than not to know. And then they can help a lot of stuff. They can correct a lot of the stuff that they helped create. Nah, see, that's the conspiracy theory in me. I think, you know what I'm saying, you know, they put all these poisons in our foods so that they can charge us once we get older for all the medicines and all the sicknesses that they've given us. Diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you know what I mean? You know, kid says hi. Hey, thanks for saying hi. Hi. Good looking out. Thanks for tapping in. Man, look, like I'm saying, man, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm finding out about all the stuff that they got in our foods, and it's like they got the same foods made by the same company without the poisons sold to other people. Like, wait a minute. Hold up. How come they get special but we don't? G-Man TV, SD, see ya. What's cracking? Nah, man, you know what I'm saying? But that's one of the things I'm learning about all this stuff and how they got it, how they got the poisonous dyes and all the stuff like that. But it's not only that; it's the preservatives. It's, you know what I mean? You know, and it's hard to go find stores that carry food that don't have all these poisons in them. Most stores, all they care about is the dollar. All they care about is getting that dollar. It's shocking. It's crazy. Look, I did a video talking about the poisons that they spray on the vegetables in the stores to make them last longer. Now, this stuff, I took a picture of the tag, and this shit says if it gets in contact with your skin, you're supposed to flush the shit for 20 minutes with water and then contact poison control. The reason this was so big for me because I'm the, you know what I'm saying, I'm the fat boy walking through the store trying to be more healthy. So when I go through the vegetable aisle, I'm grabbing green beans. When I was a kid, my mom used to have a big old bag of green beans, and I'd be sitting there, snapping green beans. You snap the ends off, but then you break them into, certain size pieces, and mom's is going to cook those up. But we get them fresh and snap them up. And so, I'm walking through grabbing green beans and just chewing on them and grubbing and grazing as I go through my shopping. Now, I'm not saying this is right, but this is the way I was raised. My dad, he taught me a whole lot of wrong things. But relearning how to live is one way, you do it. Yeah, I heard you say that I mentioned Johnson and Johnson's baby shampoo had big cancer causing chemicals in them. Yeah, all those pharmaceutical Johnson and Johnson. What's the other one? It was Johnson Johnson. The baby powder. It's all kinds of stuff. All this stuff that's hazardous to us, but they sell us and trick us into thinking we need this stuff. And now we're using this, bathing ourselves with poisons all the time. And that's another thing, you got to look at, anything that's like, no, you don't want to be ingesting no petroleum products, period. You know what I mean? And a lot of the, they're making, what is it, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. Now they're supposed to be a part of the government. I thought they were supposed to be helping us, because they punish us for doing something wrong. They need to punish them motherfuckers for that dirty shit they've been doing. They're the Food and Drug Administration. Why are they trying to poison or allowing these companies to make billions of dollars off of poisoning our people? And why do we not know about this? This should be, more people should know about this stuff. I put the little video out about the poisons on the vegetables that they spray on because I went to places that you wouldn't expect, Whole Foods. I went to Vons, I went to Albertsons, I went to what was it, Smart and Final, Walmart. I went to all the grocery areas, and they have boxes up over the cabinets with all the groceries in it. Now those boxes are up there just to cover up the jug of poison that's going into the lines and being sprayed directly on your food. And if you go to the video, Poison in Our Foods, that I did a while back, it'll show you the tag, and it clearly says, if you have contact with this on your skin. Now this is on the vegetables that you're buying that you're going to ingest. Now I understand you're supposed to clean everything you get before you ingest it, but still, you know what I mean? Some of this stuff, is designed so it doesn't wash off. You got to be careful with the stuff you eat because poisoning people makes people sick. People getting sick makes the big bucks for the medical and the pharmaceutical trade. That's what I'm talking about. But more people need to be speaking on this. This is affecting lives of the people that I care about, So I, want to say something. I want to do whatever I can. Hey, wake up. Somebody, look what they doing. But don't nobody care. Man, that's like, me personally, I try and be on some positive stuff. Now, my past is I'm a gangbanger. I'm from the streets. I'm in and out of, juvenile facilities, in and out of adult incarceration facilities, from county jail to prison to, to now I'm out here, and this is the longest I've been out since I was 9 years old. and it's 9 years. You know, well, it's almost 9 years. You know, and I'm looking forward to getting there. I'm hoping I get there. I'm blessed to be here because there's so many things that I've done, and man, look, somebody kept me here for a reason. I'm thankful and I'm grateful. You know, it's a lot of people that I started, you know, that I grew up with that ain't here no more. We just lost one. You know what I'm saying? You know, a couple days ago. You know, I'll be going to the big homie funeral, and it's a loss because, you know what I mean, you know, I know the family, and it's like I know how bad they're already going through it. You know, so send my love out. You know what I mean? Rest in peace, Lil C. But like I said, you know what I'm saying, you know, it's a transition. I don't believe, you know what I'm saying, death is the final end all for us, for, you know what I'm saying, for me. Like I say, I'm indestructible. I'm just joking and playing. But you know what I'm saying, in reality, I know, you know what I'm saying, you know, I am not indestructible. But I done had fun my first 50, you know what I'm saying, you know, but now, you know what I'm saying, I got another 50 to go. So, you know, I plan on being around a long time. So if y'all, you know what I'm saying, you know, tapped in now, stay tuned. Cause we got many more moons. But I'm just grateful, you know, because uh there's so many times, so many things, so many situations that sometimes I didn't even think I was gonna make it. You know, when I was incarcerated, you know, being a white boy and being a crip and being in a level 4 maximum security prison, I I wasn't expected to survive. You know, uh, but I left that prison with a bit of a legacy because, you know, I know people that went to the yard after I left. You know what I'm saying? You know, other white Crips, you know, two of them. And they told me, you know what I'm saying, you know, that, yeah, they didn't have no problems. And, you know what I'm saying, you know, that wasn't my goal. I wasn't trying to do nothing for them. I was trying to survive. That's it. I was trying to survive. Like I said, you know what I'm saying, you know, I've been stabbed 13 times. I've been, you know, at that time, you know, I was getting into it with the Nazi lowriders. So, you know, and this was before uh, they got validated and ended up turning and going to SNY, which is sensitive needs. But anyway, all that prison stuff is over. You know, I'm out here, you know what I'm saying? You know, I get up, you know what I'm saying, you know, 4:30 in the morning, I gotta go to work. I gotta go get it, cause ain't nobody giving me nothing. Ain't no retirement plan for somebody who spent his life in a cage. You know, man, look, I'm living my best life, no complaints, but it's so much more coming. I got stuff I'm working on, you know, I need help. I need help, and I'm working on it. But I need to find somebody with some tech, somebody that knows how to get on a computer and do what they do. But that's coming. All things come in His time. You know, it ain't about, you know what I'm saying, you know, I'm gonna get what I want. I'm gonna get everything I want because, you know what I'm saying, you know, I'm a child of the Most High. I'm blessed by the best and praying for the rest. And all I got to do, you know what I'm saying, you know, is ask. He'll take care of me. But it's in His time. It's when you know what I'm saying, you know, because I've learned that sometimes you're not ready for everything you want. You know, 'cause if I had everything I want, I wouldn't know how to act. You know, I'll tell you the truth, I wouldn't know how to act. I'd act a fool. And that's the thing, you know what I'm saying, you know, I don't wanna be one of those people, you know what I'm saying, you know, that get a little piece of the pie and then, you know what I'm saying, you know, and then waste it. But you know, I'm not gonna be that guy, you know what I'm saying, you know, that The boss man gives him a buck, you know what I'm saying, and he goes and buries it, you know what I mean, and then, hey, look, I saved this. What, you didn't double that? You didn't flip that? You didn't go make that into nothing? You didn't spread your hustle. Man, look, that's the thing. I'm a hustler. I ain't with being broke. So, you know what I'm saying, my hustle is getting up and going to that gig. So that job pays my bills. That takes care of my family. That job puts a roof over my head. And you know what I'm saying, I'm thankful for that, because I have a job. And you know what I mean, I've been with this company for a little while, and they treat me decently, you know what I mean? They take care of me, you know what I mean, And that's the thing. I work hard. So, you know what I'm saying, I believe, you know what I'm saying, I'm worth their effort, So I try and be, you know what I'm saying, a beneficial part of the team, I'm not just a part of the team. I want to be, you know what I'm saying, the hardest working man in the room. So I'm gonna be trying to get it done. And that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? If everybody did that, it'd be a little bit better. You know, when I look around, I see a lot of people that want to sit around and wait and take that extra lunch and that extra break, and it's that's coming out of my bonus. Partner, get up, get to work, let's go, let's get this. The sooner we get done, the sooner we get paid. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm Chaos Chronicles. Good looking out, Duca. Chaos Chronicles. I'm gonna check that shit out. I'm gonna come back on here and remember because I'm gonna forget later. But good looking out. I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying, tapping in, you know what I'm saying, every little bit helps. That's a community, you know what I mean? I was raised with community. So everybody, you know what I'm saying, help each other out, you know what I'm saying, we can do more. Who's locked up in the US but not out yet? Shit, I got a whole bunch of homies still locked up. It was a petition going around. They trying to get the homie out. He got life. But it's a whole bunch of people that are out here, and I like I said, I spend my life in that cage, and I still have issues. I was looking at some. I'm trying to find some place where they have like assistance with PTSD for inmates, because I know, you know what I'm saying, they have it for officers and first responders and I understand that, you know what I'm saying, the military, yeah, I really understand that. Uncle Sam ain't no joke. So if you went through his training, you's a bad man. But there's a lot of PTSD that happens in prison and in the streets and in the real world. I mean, Chaos Chronicles done an interview with a convict in U.S., but the video ain't out yet. Okay, I'm gonna be looking forward to that and see what that's about. Yeah, man, that's the thing. I've been I've had a couple people, you know what I'm saying, get at me to do interviews, and I've been busy, like I said, work, and my priority, you know what I'm saying, was paying my bills. So I had to go back to work. I had to get back to work, you know what I'm saying, after my surgery. I had that shoulder surgery. But you know what I'm saying, all is good. Shoulder back, you know what I'm saying, now, you know what I'm saying, it's time, you know what I'm saying, start, you know what I'm saying, spreading my hustle, doing a little extra. I'm just it's harder and harder, you know what I'm saying? Everything keeps going up and I don't see no signs of it going down. It's gonna get worse before it gets better, but you know what I'm saying, like I said, I'm a survivor, you know what I'm saying, and I'm a stand tall through it all. But that's the thing, I'm a firm believer in trust and believe, and I trust and believe that, you know what I'm saying, Pops, you know what I'm saying, got a plan, and you know what I'm saying, he's gonna lead me to where I need to be, give me the strength to do what I need to do, and have my back, you know what I'm saying, when I get weak. Because that's the thing, everybody gets weak. And the hardest thing I had to do so far is ask for help. It's not easy to ask somebody for help, especially, men are raised, you know what I'm saying, oh, boys don't cry, ain't no, you know what I'm saying, boy, suck it up, put your big boy britches on, you know what I'm saying, deal with that shit, move on, and that's the way we deal with life, you know. I'm the first one. Look, I admit, I do it every chance I get. Cause I don't brag about being a tough guy and none of that. But you know what I'm saying? I got a little reputation for certain things, and I'm not that guy. I don't want to be known for that. ah, it's sad. It's crazy. There's that saying. You know what I'm saying? Be careful what you ask for, because you might just get it. When I was a kid, all I wanted was a name and a reputation. That was it. Just a name and a reputation. And growing up in the hood, I was the only white boy in you know what I'm saying, in my little area. There was like, I think, three white families that I know of. And that's in hollering distance from, and that was the community. And we caught hell. You know what I'm saying? We had problems. You know what I'm saying? There were people that didn't want us over there. And you know what I'm saying? I was raised, like I said, I was taken in by the community. There was people that took me into their house and into their family and fed me and clothed me and took care of me when my people put me out on the streets. You know what I mean? My dad put me out on the streets when I was 13 years old, you know, and he. Why I like your content is that you dumb bullshit. Brag, make yourself look tough. You say it how it is. True gangster. Yeah, I don't know about the true gangster. Man, you know what I'm saying? I'm just here. I'm just trying, you know what I'm saying? I'm just hoping somebody, you know what I'm saying, listens and hears and is like, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? I ain't going to do that. Just one person, you know what I'm saying? And all this is worth it and I'm good, because I'm hoping somebody's listening and paying attention, because I know I can't go, you know what I'm saying, walk through the hood and be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing this, or you shouldn't be doing that. Because when I was in that place, you couldn't tell me nothing. And if you ain't never been in a situation like that, you ain't gonna know what I'm talking about. But I've been in a situation where I wouldn't have been receptive. Do you understand? So going and getting at somebody like that, I know that ain't gonna work, because you know what I'm saying, that came by me all the time, and it was like, yeah, okay, you know what I'm saying, whatever, get up out of here. And because my ears were closed, you know what I'm saying, I was focused on, you know what I'm saying, what I thought was everything, and you know what I'm saying, it wasn't. And for a while, as things went on, like I said, all I wanted was a name and a reputation. And then after spending over 20 years in a prison cell and having to fight for my life on more, you know what I'm saying, occasions than I care to even remember, I've been stabbed, I've been jumped, it was a rough ride, and I don't know, you know what I'm saying, I hope that somebody comes up with something better than the system that we have now, because the system that we have now is some bullshit. you know oh yeah, I don't see the freedom, I don't, you know what I mean, it's like when you hear history, it's his story. It's not real history, because history is the history of, is not. We're just going to tell you my piece. We're just going to tell you this little bit, but we're not going to show you none of the other real that really happened. We're just going to show you this right here. We're going to look at this. Focus on this. Don't look it over. Don't look over there. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Anyway, the education system. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I know, I went through it, and so did my mother and my father, and my mother was partially illiterate, but she had a high school diploma. But they used to explain that, oh well, you know what I'm saying? They just, if you showed up and came to class, they would just pass you. Okay. So why the hell they paying the teachers to sit up in there and do all this if they ain't doing nothing? Victors of the war rewrite the history books. Winston Churchill. Hey, that's true. Facts. That's true. Facts all day. Uh, what's sad? It's a quote. I think it was my nephew that put it up. It said, it said something about, you know what I'm saying, it showed the Confederate flag, and it was talking about how, ain't this funny how, you know what I'm saying, the people are flying a flag of a country that lost the war in the country that they lost it to. And you know what I'm saying, and then I found out that that Confederate flag isn't theirs. They stole that flag from the native people of this land. That's crazy. Why was that swept under the rug? That Confederate flag? Yeah, that's a Native American flag. Oh, we wasn't supposed to know about it. Shh. Don't believe me. Don't never go by what I say. Go check it out. But nah, it's so many things, you know what I'm saying, it's like, that's foul, and it's like, hold on, you know what I'm saying, but then don't nobody want to say nothing about it because they'll ruin you. Shit, never knew that. Yeah, hey, don't go by what I say. Always check. Don't never go by what nobody say. Always check. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, I'm learning little stuff, you know what I'm saying, here and there, but you know what I'm saying, sometimes I have to double check and triple check and go find out again, is this real or is this Memorex? Because they got the fakey mistakey, and they will give you a counterfeit in a minute. But nah, you know what I'm saying, the way I understand it is anything that like, if you see it on TV, if you see something on TV, some magical gadget. Okay, back in the days, I'm not sure what year it was. I think it was the 60s, the late 60s, Star Trek. When Star Trek came out, their first communicators, they flipped open and they flipped closed. That became our flip phone. Am I wrong? Think about it. Go back and look at the first Star Trek. If someone can think it up, then someone has already figured out how to make it. So that's the thing. They've already showed you the on TV in the 60s, and then what was it? In the late 80s, in the late 80s, early no, in the 90s. In the late 90s is when the flip phone came out. So you had to wait 30 years. Oh, you got one for me? What you got? Go ahead. Go ahead, Duke, shoot. I don't know everything, but I know a few things. And that's the thing. I know a whole bunch of, a little bit about a whole bunch of stuff. But, you know what I'm saying, like I say, you know what I'm saying, knowledge is key. And, I just, look, I had to stop. I don't like going to school. I got a lot of my knowledge actually from PBS. I learned a lot from public broadcasting. And people, you know what I'm saying, I don't know, you know what I'm saying, that the president doesn't like it. He's defunding public broadcasting. But I learned a lot in prison with all the documentaries, all the stuff, and then that's the thing. Even some of the historical stuff is like questioned now, because is this real, or is this his story? So late 1700s, early 1800s, Not sure of the timeline. You talking about the Great Reset? 200 years ago? What you talking about, Duca? Here's one for you. So, let me see. What was I talking about? Duca fucking with my head. So, yeah, it's I know a lot. I know a little bit about a lot of stuff, but I don't know a lot about a lot of stuff. Because you absorb what you get interested in. Things that you get interested in, you can absorb easier. It's everybody learns differently. You have your own way. You should know. You should try and find out your way of learning so that what I'm saying. You make things easier on yourself. you know. I try and be a sponge. I was raised that way. I mean, you got to soak up the game because I was raised, I'm saying, old school, and game is to be sold, not told. I had, I'm saying, a bunch of big homies that they didn't want nobody to know what they was doing. So they wouldn't tell, I'm saying, the younger homies and lead us and lace us and, because we didn't know how to act. We wasn't listening. I'm saying, we was hard headed and they knew it, what I mean? But so we had, I actually had to go behind the big homies, what I'm saying, and then see what they was doing and learn that way. So around certain states of America, people witnessed flying airships like the Zeppelin flying about, and people were waving, and the airship pilots wearing weird clothes waved back. It made it in the steady ranching. I see you. It made it in the what? Oh, now you got me hanging on the edge. Okay. But yeah, what I'm saying, nah, I ain't never heard about no Zeppelins. Let me see. It made it in the local papers of the time. 20 years later, they were out. They were out to the public. 20 years later, they were out to the public. Yeah, I don't know. As far as that, what I'm saying, I ain't never heard about that one. That's a different one. I've heard of a lot of different, what I mean, like flying, alien conspiracy theory rabbit hole. I used to live in the rabbit hole. I used to want to dive in the rabbit hole and pull the hole in behind me, and I'm done. Just leave me alone. But I came to realize, if there's nothing I can do about it, I got to keep moving and keep going. I can't, what I'm saying, sit around wondering what's going to happen and being worried and not paying attention. I got to push forward. I'm a can't stop, won't stop. You got to make it happen if you want it to happen, because ain't nobody going to do it for you. If you want something, you got to go make it happen. And that's what I did when I was a kid. I just wanted a name and a reputation. And when I was a kid, I got it. Evelyn, I am blessed. So what I'm saying, government technology is far advanced and doesn't reach the public till years later. Yeah. Now I believe that wholeheartedly. I don't, what I'm saying, I think, what I'm saying, a lot of the, well, I don't even know what they call them now, the UAPs, the UFOs, the unidentified flying objects. I don't know what the UAPs or what they call it now. Uh, Duns. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate you. It helps the channel. But look, what I'm saying, I don't know about the how how they do it, but there's been many instances where they've hidden stuff from the public. Why? Because they don't want mass panic, so they say. But is that true? Or is it them? Are they the ones that we think are the aliens because they're, you know what I'm saying, testing out some new technology that they don't want nobody to know about? I remember all these stories about, the lights over Arizona, and then, you know what I'm saying, you got that. Then you got, California is famous, you know what I'm saying, for seeing stuff over the ocean. So, and I still ain't seen the green flash, you know what I mean? I know some people, I'm born and raised out here, you know what I'm saying? But I know some people, you know what I'm saying, that have told me they've seen it. And if you know what I'm talking about from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, that's what I'm talking about, the green flash. I still ain't seen it, but I'm looking. Bit of both, I think. Yeah, the government is its own thing. I'm not a fan. I think both sides are the same coin. You know what I mean? Whether you Democratic or Republican, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? You part of the government. The government is there to feather their own nests, take care of themselves, and that's it. They don't care about the people. They're not doing what the people want. They, you know what I'm saying? They got lobbyists giving them millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? Here, you want to do what we want you to do. How does that work? But that's the thing. I don't know nothing about politics. I can't really speak on politics. That's not my thing. About the seeing crazy shit. Duke said, I've seen some crazy shit I can't explain. I've been there. I've seen some stuff that I can't explain. That doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying, it's, you know what I'm saying, I personally, I believe that there's something out there more powerful than I am. And that's, you know what I'm saying, that's all I know. I don't know what it is, but that's the same way, you know what I'm saying, like, I say I'm blessed by the best, because, there's a higher power. There's something more powerful than me out there. And that, you know what I'm saying, is watching over me. And, you know what I'm saying, and, you know what I'm saying, I believe if I, you know what I'm saying, do what I'm, do the best I can to do me, to do the best me that I can be, then I think that's the best I can. I can't do much else. I don't know what else. I don't know what else I can do. Hey, somebody agrees. I appreciate you though. Nah, you know what I'm saying, but life keeps throwing stuff at me. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. It don't stop. I'm trying to get back out here more, doing more, you know what I'm saying, on this YouTube thing, because I've been, you know what I'm saying, busy working, you know what I'm saying, but I got some stuff coming up on Sundays. If y'all around, check me out, you know what I'm saying. I'll be live on Sundays during the afternoon sometimes. I'm going to be hanging out at Fat Camp. If anybody knows, you know. If you don't know, tune in. Yeah, so Sundays I'll be live. I'll be doing something out there. Fat Camp, you know what I'm saying? It's a local San Diego, pretty hot and tempting, you know what I'm saying? Women's softball. So tap in with your boy, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have some video out there, you know what I'm saying? Have some people tapping in when they walk by, you know what I'm saying? See who I can get to stop by and talk to y'all. But I know a few famous people. I know a rapper that's a rap star. Nah, I got a bunch of homies that's rapping, and I got, you know what I'm saying, homies that's doing a lot of stuff. I got a community activist, my boy Rasted Low. He's been busy. I've been trying to get him here, you know what I'm saying, but he's gonna be coming to do a video soon. Stay tuned, please stay tuned. I also got some other stuff coming, I'm gonna try and get back to doing my little short stories, so stay tuned for those. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, still here, still going, life, you know what I'm saying, keeps waking me up. What's cracking, Snow? Glad I caught you. thanks for tapping in, man. Appreciate it, man. You know, every little bit helps. I'm gonna hit you up. So, all right, damn fool, man. You stay up, man. And don't trip. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm pass that number on to the boy. So hopefully he get at you. I'm gonna try and do it tomorrow. No guarantees though. Hey, you know how it goes. Yeah. So, hey, life has been kicking me in the nuts, man. Every time I turn around, it's one thing or another, you know, and that's the way life is. You know, you can't expect everything to be, you know what I'm saying, you know, all happy, happy, fun time. Because that's not the way life is. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying, you know, you get hit in the face, you know what I'm saying, you know, with a, you know what I'm saying, pile of crap. And what do you do about it? You clean that shit off and you get up and get the fuck on. You know, put your big boy britches on. But nah, you know what I'm saying, you know, you can't let nothing stop you. You know what I'm saying, you know, I'm a firm believer in the can't stop, won't stop because, you know, like I said, when I was younger, all I wanted was a name and a reputation. But I got it. I got a name and a reputation. But then I realized, man, you know what I'm saying, I used to think that I just wasted my life, man, just to get a reputation. But then nah, I didn't because that reputation taught me that if I'm willing to do the work it takes, there's nothing that I can't do. So once I realized that, then I started wanting things, and I wanted a normal life, and it was a friend of mine, and we were sitting there talking, and I was telling him I was telling him how I was complaining. I was literally complaining about the little stuff that was going on in my life at the time, whatever, you know what I'm saying, ups and downs that life throws at you. And it's just that, you know what I'm saying, just venting, whatever. But it was a partner, somebody, you know what I'm saying, I got love and respect for. And I'm sitting there complaining and complaining, and he's like, man, you know what I'm saying, so you got a normal life. And I was like, what? Because he didn't know that when I was in prison, I sat in prison. It's like, man, I just want a normal life. That's it. I just want a normal life. And now I got a normal life. I get up in the morning. Man, I should have wished to be rich and famous. But nah, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm thankful for the lesson because it taught me something. It taught me that if I'm willing to do the work it takes, it's nothing I can't do. Life gonna do what it do. You handle it is how you handle it is what matters. True. Never surrender, never give up. Look, can't stop, won't stop is my life motto. That's the way I've got through life. That's what got me here. It's been so many times where I wanted to fold up, I wanted to give up, I wanted to just quit. You know, it was one time in prison, you know, where I talk shit. I talk too much shit, you know, and I pissed the correctional officers off when I was in Corcoran, and they beat the shit out of me. And I'm talking about, man, look, I ain't never been beat like that before in my life. And, you know, that was when I first got there and I was in the shoe. And, you know, luckily I was able to get out and not, you know what I'm saying, have any problems after that. But that place was so bad that, you know what I'm saying, you know, the staff were killing inmates. They were setting up fights, betting on it. Then if they didn't like the outcome, you know, they just and people were being murdered and people had to fight. You know, people know about it. You know, this was during the 90s. I got to Corcoran in 1992. I paroled in 1994, and that was my first time at a level 3 maximum security prison, and I paroled, and I was just so happy to get out of there because at the time when I was there, Charles Manson was at Corcoran. This was before they added the SAT-F, the SAT-F program that's there now. This was before they added on. Okay, Corcoran at the time was already the biggest prison in California. Then the people voted and said, look, we don't want you guys to build any new prisons. So, you know what they did? They said, okay, we're not going to build any new prisons. They just took 10 of the old prisons that they had and added another prison next to it and said we were just adding on. We weren't, you know what I'm saying, we weren't building a new prison. We're just adding on to the existing prison. Corcoran, four low, 92 to 95. Yeah, I can't remember. Look, I can't forget the day I paroled. Because mom sent me my clothes. She let me tell her what to be. Mom sent me a blue rag, some blue Dickies, some blue suede Adidas, a blue and black Pendleton, a black BVD t-shirt with the pocket. Yeah, man, look, that's the way I paroled in 1994, February 28th. Yeah, you don't forget that. That release date. Man. But that's the thing, I spent over 20 years in a California cage, in a prison, in a box, in a cell. In a cell the size of my bathroom. The bathroom in my house is as big as the cell I used to live in. I ain't gotta live like that no more. But that's the thing, it's modern day slavery. And I heard it. I think it was, I'm not sure, you know what I'm saying, but I think it was Ice-T. And he said, slavery has been abolished except for the convicted felon. That was in one of his songs back in the day before he got big on acting. But that's the thing, I don't know. It's just, sometimes you just gotta let it go. If I ain't got no control over something, I just let it go. I try to always speak on it because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't realize how bad it is for some people. The system is so twisted that I don't know. I don't know. Because one, it's not fair. It's not fair. I remember I met a man in I was at a speaking event, and my big homeboy Kurt Dog, he was speaking, and there was a professor that came on after him, and the professor was speaking and telling the story of how his father, when he was a child, was murdered by the San Diego police. And then he went on and he spoke on, how that motivated him as a child, to educate himself so that he could, fight to defend, other people so that they don't have to go through what he had to go through. And I respect the man for that. But, all that aside, he was speaking, and I was just looking at he posted, this was like 2010, an incarceration rate by race. Majority of people in prison are of color. Why is that? They're not the majority of the population, but they're the majority of the people incarcerated. Slavery's been abolished except for the convicted felon. Yeah, okay. But that's the thing, it's this ain't a game. This is real life. This is the world we live in. This is what's going on. This is what's up. And I'm gonna be here, you know what I'm saying, letting you know what's cracking. Hey, so look, from now on, you know what I'm saying, Fridays 9 o'clock. Fridays 9 o'clock, Snow will be live. Also, you know what I'm saying, Sundays in the afternoon, holla at your boy, tap in. We gonna be at Fat Camp. Ooh wee. Yeah, that's it. Tap in on the weekends and hit the like, subscribe, and share. That's it for tonight, y'all. You know what I'm saying, let me get the thumbs up and y'all stay safe.